Well, joining us now for a national SAPS, the Deputy Police Commissioner Sehlahle Masemola. Good evening, Deputy Commissioner. Thanks very much for your time. Now, going into today, parts of KwaZulu-Natal, the Northwest and Limpopo were flagged as hot spots. With less than 2 hours to go before the closing of polling stations, what can you tell us?
Thanks, Vio. With regard to KwaZulu-Natal and Northwest being a hotspot provinces, I think we did well as the South African Police Services and as the national joins with all other departments, because the voting in both the provinces went smoothly. Of course, there were some teething problems there and there. In KwaZulu-Natal, we had areas like which happens, of course, very late in the afternoon, where we experienced some few problems at Inanda and Sehlahle, where there is some little bit of standoff between political parties. And in Northwest, all voting stations opened. It went well, even though one or two opened very late. I think it went quite very well. In KwaZulu-Natal, you should be aware, I think, that in the area of Beckville there were some protests, and in that regard, police were there to escort the IEC staff, but it's unfortunate that the staff themselves couldn't make it because of the problem that they are from the local community, and they are fearing for later repercussions. But at this stage, everything is going well. Voting stations in Beckville open very late, of course, but voting is going on, and I think we are making.
I must ask you around the point of, especially when you're talking about IEC officials having to not make it and not be escorted simply because of fear. Is it not then the role of the police service in that regard to appease any fear from officials? Because if one individual is protesting and the other one still wants to exercise their democratic right to vote, that individual that wants to exercise their right has got every single right to do so. So what protection then comes in from a policing perspective to ensure that that person's democratic right is actually kept 25 years into our democracy?
Faith, we do protect the community in Beckville. The issue here was not that police are not able to escort them into their various voting stations. No, we were there, we were ready to escort them. So much so we said, you can leave your vehicles, get into the police vehicles, your material will take you there. The main issue there was that they say they are from the local community, and they do get calls that, well, go on with the work, but remember, after election, you are with us here.
So they're being threatened, so to say.
Yes,
so
yes.
in them being threatened, what do you support? What support base is there for IEC officials who are feeling threatened?
We gave them the option to open cases, but they felt that no, that will still not be sufficient. We offered that we will make sure that we protect them and protect even their places, but they still felt that no, they are not ready to go in. But only very late in the afternoon, IEC had to do some plans, and the voting went ahead as planned.
Now, I want to ask you specifically about Vuwane, but before we get there, I just need clarity on the standoff you were talking about between political parties in KZN still. What was that about?
In 2 or 3 voting stations, which also happened here in Gauteng, in Sunnyside, a group of supporters of one party, they will be singing, and the other one will also be, singing, and they will be, start, throwing some insult to one another, which then police has to come in and make sure that they disperse and go. And,
so it didn't get out of hand?
Yeah, no, it never get out of hand. We were able to have them disperse and go.
Now, I want to go to Vuwane, if I may, Deputy Commissioner. From some of the visuals that were sent by our crew, that was there. Your police had to actually clean up the roads because people had put barricades, trying to, all in an effort to prevent other people from going to exercise their right to vote. Describe to us the situation as you understand it from the briefings you got from your men and women on the ground, and what your role was in trying to make sure that the situation there is brought under control.
The situation in Bhuwani, the police deployed this morning, an IEC official deployed, and there were drips and drips of voters that were coming. Of course, certain routes were found to be barricaded, and police were opening those routes so that voting can take place. And there has been people that did come for voting, so we are in control of the situation. Currently, there is no problems, except that there is very few people coming to vote. You should be aware that yesterday the community met and they took a resolution that they are not going to vote, and those that will be going to vote, obviously there will be repercussions, which in turn, as South African Police Service and the National Joints, we did act through the province of Limpopo, and there is one man that has been arrested for those making threats, threatening people not to vote. He is currently in custody. I'm sure he'll appear in court very soon.
But then, Deputy Commissioner, you're responsible for not only the police, but the other departments that you are working with, but also within your own department you do have, for instance, your crime intelligence and so on. From your own assessment of what is actually going on there, is it people who have genuine concerns, or is there another...
you want to say third force?
No, not so much third force, but
oh.
what in your view could be responsible for this sudden upsurge?
You would remember that the Bhuwani problem comes a long way. Is the issue about demarcation in terms of municipalities. And every time there is an opportunity that they do an uprising, they do it. In this case, one could see that probably they wanted to bargain with government. You give us this, we give you the vote. If you don't give us municipality, we don't give you the vote. So that's how I see it.
You think that's what it is, nothing more than that? That's what I'm trying to establish.
No, there is nothing more than that. It's more about the municipality, issues around demarcation.
Yeah, and unfortunately with the rise of social media, it appears as though the people get the news sometimes even before law enforcement officers, unfortunately. In fact, one such a journalist earlier on was touching on the issue of in Emelo, for example, where a woman was apprehended because of selling ballot papers. So she had the ballot papers itself and which is identified to be an IEC official. Instances and incidences such as that. How then do you come on board and try to mitigate that? Because also this issue of individuals wanting to or having to be prosecuted for for example, wanting to vote more than once, and people stealing ballot papers. These are issues that are coming up to the fold, unfortunately, as the day progresses. How then, as law enforcement, do you just mitigate some of those issues that are, and I'm looking at the time now, in the dark, that's when the darkness happens, that's when the scary stuff happens. So in the dark, particularly now, in those areas, how then do you start, as law enforcement, mitigating some of those issues?
Well, as law enforcement, we are still deployed. Remember, we are going to be at the voting stations right through until the counting even finishes. So we, at no stage, will be able to leave them. But of course, yes, where the IEC officials, we come across them doing such type of things, we do take action, and there has been a number of arrests that have been effected around during the day. I don't have the numbers, but people have been arrested during the day for either protesting, preventing others to go and vote, and those that are committing either some fraud of some sort, whether it's IEC officials or not, we do take action.
And in which particular areas have you, and I mean, I'm sure you've been surveying the entire landscape of the country recently, but which particular areas have you identified that, we need to actually deploy more individuals there and more law enforcement there simply because of the nature of the situation and the nature of the unrest? Which specific areas are those?
is mostly you have one area in Limpopo. We definitely will deploy more forces, and your greater KwaZulu-Natal, especially around your Zululand area and around your greater eThekwini area, we deployed more forces. But the rest of the country, we have got our deployments right through until they will be there until the counting is done and is finished.
Before we let you go, Deputy Commissioner, we saw some footage a little earlier of some skirmishes between the police and some of the protesters. No serious injuries or deaths or anything like that in those instances?
Up to this stage, there is nobody that we are aware of that has been injured by law enforcement, and there has been also on our side no casualties, except that from IEC and also from the police, I'm aware there has been car accidents, one or two, where we had people injured. But through skirmishes, no, there is nobody that has been injured across the country. Our forces are still there, and to make sure that, yes, the last hours of voting goes through. But you asked the issue of voting twice. That, I think, it belongs to IEC. I won't be able to answer that one, whether one can vote twice or not. But as far as we know, the IEC measures will prevent that. So, thank you.
Well, we're going to leave our conversation there, Lieutenant General. I know that you've got quite your hands full for the next, until 9 p.m. Hopefully some of those voting stations will be closed, but also as we get in the results as well. Lieutenant General Masemola there, who is the Deputy National Commissioner of Police, and giving us the latest insights really in terms of how are things faring across the country where law enforcement is concerned, and also how safe are you as you go out to vote.
In fact, picking up on the issue that the Deputy National Commissioner of Police was talking about there, anyone who attempts to vote twice will be prosecuted.